Hey everybody, it's Wendy and Don this time of Wendy's Homemade Kitchen and Home for Dinner, and we are going to show you how easy it is to make homemade pie crust. Homemade pie crust is so much better than anything that you can buy pre-made at the grocery store. So if you want a pie that tastes just like Grandma used to make it, you got to learn how to make pie crust. And we're going to show you. It's super simple. Don has never made pie crust. Never ever. Never touched it. So I'm going to walk him through the process. We'll give you the recipe and you'll be able to do this too. All right? Thumbs up if you're ready. And okay, we are good to go. So pie crust is a basic combination of fat and flour. So that's where we're starting. All right, so the first thing you need to do is measure 2 cups of flour into your bowl.
Okay. Let's see, I need the cup measurement.
He also is going to have to figure out how to use the tools that he doesn't know how to use. So I set everything up for him, and he's going to have to do everything just like first time you try to do something.
Now this is a bowl with a 1 cup measurement, right?
Right. This is our silicone prep bowl with 1 cup measure. And he has flour just off screen. So he is actually dipping the flour the correct way. If you'll notice, he's dipping in and getting flour with the little scoop, and then he's going to level that off. The reason you want to do flour this way is because if you scoop and measure, you are weighing you're getting so much extra flour in your measurement because the flour is compacted. That can give you up to like 2 ounces of extra flour, and that'll make a big difference as to whether you have a dry cookie or pie crust or, you know, whatever you're making. You have to know how to measure your ingredients.
Okay.
All right.
Now, should I just put this in the bowl?
Yep, right in the bowl.
All right. That's 1 cup.
Okay. Now do the 2nd cup using this measuring cup, which is actually the correct way to measure flour, is to measure with something that you can scoop across the top. So that's going to be an okay way, but now he's going to do it the right way. So set this for a cup and fill it with flour, because you want to be able to level the top of your flour with a knife. So you need to, that's why there are dry and wet measuring cups. The silicone prep bowl that he was using is really more of a wet measure type situation. But since I'm here and I'm helping and I know what it needs to look like at the end, he's going to be fine. But when you do it, use a dry measure when you're measuring dry ingredients.
How can you tell if it's a dry measure or a wet measure?
Well, a wet measuring cup generally has a spout on the side of it, and a dry measuring cup will have a level surface on the top like this cup does. Now, with this cup that we have, this is our mini measuring cup, there is an indication, which I'll show you as soon as he gets done. We'll turn the cup around so you can see. This allows you to measure wet and dry at the same time. So just level that off. All right, 1 level cup. Now before you dump it so that we can see it, let's turn it around so that this red side shows and the red arrow is up. This is for, let's turn it this way. All right, this shows you that you are measuring on the dry side. The red writing is right side up, so he's measuring correctly with dry measure. All right, in the bowl.
All right.
And the next ingredient is shortening. And we need 3/4 of a cup of shortening. And we are using Crisco.
Good old Crisco.
Crisco is not the ingredient that it was in the 1960s. And when everybody says, oh my gosh, we can't use shortening, we have to go to all butter. Crisco is an all vegetable shortening. It doesn't have the trans fats in it that were the problem with Crisco before. So the reason you want to use shortening is because shortening will help you have flakier layers. You'll get a crisper crust. Layers in pastry is all about steam, actually, creating little pockets of fat and steam. Measure Crisco on the
dry side?
Dry side.
Okay.
Dry side also means solids. So Crisco is a solid, so it's a dry ingredient.
All right.
Okay. So just measure it out. And as the Crisco blends in with the flour, it's going to create a whole lot of little pea-size pellets of fat where the fat is coated with the flour, and when those ingredients melt in the oven, it's going to make the flakiest, crispiest crust ever. So there are lots of different ways of making pie crust. This is called perfect pie crust because it's dead simple, and it will be perfect. Okay, as long as you measure correctly and use the correct techniques while you're blending it together, which we're going to show you, you are always going to have success with this pie crust. And this is a great crust for...
Now, should I push this down like this?
Yeah, you want it packed firm.
All right, I just didn't want to get too much in there.
And make sure you don't get any air pockets, which will happen sometimes if you're measuring shortening, because shortening is, you know, kind of sticky. And you just want to make sure that you have a nice full measuring cup so that you get the right amount.
Okay.
All right, and just pack that in there, make sure it's level on the top. Pie crust is a little bit forgiving. If you get just a little bit too much shortening, you can compensate for that. After you've made it a couple times, you'll learn how. If you get a little bit too much flour, you'll know how to adjust for that too. So learn the basic method and then go for it. Make lots of pies. That way you'll get the feel for it. You'll know how great it should be. You'll know when it's right, and you'll know what else you need to do if it's a little off. All right.
Make lots of pies and send them to me.
Yeah, make lots of pies. All right, just shoot that off into the flour.
This is the easy part.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
Okay.
Okay, now you need to put in some salt.
Okay.
And we need half a teaspoon of salt.
Half a teaspoon of salt. All right. And let's see, that's a quarter. So.
And you'll want to mix your dry ingredients together before you start mixing the fat into it. I should have had him do this before, but I didn't. So we're going to just put the dry ingredients on the dry side of the flour. Fortunately, he put all the shortening in the back, so we'll mix it in here at the dry front part first.
Okay, that looks like about
Right.
level.
Right, that goes in there. All right, now we want 1 tablespoon of sugar.
Okay.
And this recipe includes the sugar because we're doing a sweet crust. But if you are making a unsweet crust, like if you're making a savory crust for chicken pot pie, feel free to leave the sugar out. It's not necessary. When you do use sugar, it helps the browning a little bit, but it is not a must-have ingredient. Okay, and you want 1 tablespoon. So now notice he is not measuring over his bowl. He's going to mix in. That's a big tip because it's so easy to lose control if you are measuring over your mixing bowl and have too much salt, too much sugar, somebody bumps you, any of those kinds of things. Okay, so now that we have our dry ingredients in there and they're a little bit piled up, just take the spoon and kind of mix them around a little bit. They'll continue to mix as we cut the shortening into the flour. And that's the next step. The next step calls for a special piece of equipment, and this is called a pastry blender. Now, in the past, your grandma may have used 2 knives. You may have seen that technique. People will take 2 knives and like chop that way to get it mixed, or forks and try to mix with forks.
My mom used to use forks.
Yeah, it works, but it's a pain, and why bother? If you're going to make it with the most modern tools. Now, this is a really outstanding pastry blender. I got to tell you. All right, let me explain to him what he's doing, and then I'll tell you a story. All right, so all you do is take your pastry blender and just start cutting it down through the shortening into the flour.
Okay.
Just kind of a scoop and mix measure.
All right.
And just keep cutting. And it'll back up like that, and then you might have to tip it off a little bit and just keep cutting it in. So I used to always think that a pastry blender for $9 was outrageously expensive. So over the years, I have probably bought 5 or 6 pastry blenders at discount stores that cost me about $3 or $2 a piece. If I had just gone ahead and bought a decent pastry blender 20 years ago, when it would have only cost me $5 or $6 compared to the 75 cents to $1 that many years ago, I would have been so much happier, because this is a job where the right tool makes all the difference in your frustration level. Okay, so he's doing a really good job. I'm going to show you the bowl right now after just a minute or 2 of mixing. All right, he still has a little mixing to go. All right, hold this, please.
Sure.
All right, so what we have right now are fairly big chunks, and you can see that the fat is being blended in, but they're still fairly big, right? We want them smaller. We want this to be a much finer consistency so that they are about the size of peas, and right now they're about lima bean size. So,
I hate lima beans.
yeah, let's give it a shake and get some more flour. Go down, scoop under, and get some of that flour mixed in, and just keep pressing it down, blending until you get about pea size. Some people will even do this by hand. They'll get their hands in there and mix it all together. I don't really recommend that, because when you do that, the fat becomes too warm too quickly, and you're apt to not get the really fine definition for layers that you want in a flaky pie crust. Now, we are going to put this back in the refrigerator, so it would firm back up, but it's just so much better to just use the right tool for this job. All right, now you've got a little bit of fat on the side here, a little Crisco that has slipped up there.
Got it.
Just get that down in there. Maybe take your spatula and scoop off this inside part so it can get mixed in better. All right, and periodically you want to clean off your pastry blender, because you want all of this incorporated. He's almost there. Ah, you're getting some hearts. This is actually, if you're just joining us, thanks for stopping by. We are doing Pie Crust 101, and Don has never ever made pie crust. So I'm showing you the easiest pie crust ever. It's called Perfect Pie Crust, and if he can do it, trust me, you can do it. And then your pies are going to taste as good as the pies everybody says their grandma makes, only they really will be good. Okay, good job. You are ready to stop.
It? Okay.
Yep, you are ready to stop before it turns into concrete. You can overdo it. If you overdo it, it's a little hard to mix, so we want to stop right here. All right, get this off.
All right.
And I want to show everybody what it looks like when it's ready to go. It's all sticking together. All the flour is incorporated. We probably have minimal dry flour here. I'm going to check in a second. I want to get my hands in it. All right, so let's check that. All right, yeah, there's minimal dry flour in here, which is perfect. All right, so let me show you this. We've got a nice mixture of big and small pieces. It looks a little chunky right now, but this is still okay, because as you mix it around, you can see that there are lots of little, small, fine, granulated pieces. This is just what you want. All the fat is incorporated. It looks like a really good streusel. If you make streusel, this is the basic technique for that too. All right, next step is just make a little well in it, like I just did. All right, take your spatula back.
All right.
All right, and just, all right, that's good, a little well. Now, set this aside for a second.
All right.
Because now we have to add some wet ingredients. And the wet ingredients for this pie crust are an egg that you're going to lightly beat.
Okay.
Use that measuring cup that you used for flour, that'll work. Crack your egg in there. We're going to add vinegar after he gets the egg in there. And you can use white vinegar or you can use apple cider vinegar. I just happen to have apple cider vinegar.
Now, do I beat this before I put the vinegar in?
No, you can do it all at one time.
Okay.
So measure in a teaspoon of vinegar. The vinegar is in this recipe to help give it moisture, the dough moisture, without adding extra moisture that'll turn into steam and be gummy. This helps it roll better, and the egg helps create a more flexible protein structure to help it roll really good. So these two ingredients are science at work. All right.
Mr. Science.
Mr. Science. Okay, and let's beat those together.
Okay.
You can either whip these together and blend them with a fork, or if you've got a mini whipper, like he's going to be using here. I think these mini whippers are fantastic. They are so easy for mixing in. And you just want to mix it together. All right, that's good. So that it's all incorporated, it's all yellow. Now, you're just going to pour that back into your bowl. So grab your bowl.
Now, I assume I put it in the well, right?
Right. Put it down in the well. And then you are done with both of those, so those can go in the sink. Okay, and now we're also going to add cold water. You want your water as cold as possible. Our water has been sitting on the counter with some ice cubes in here. Okay, so here's where it gets a little tricky. You need to add some water so that everything will become cohesive and you can create this into a ball. If you put in too much water, you are going to have a really sticky, gummy mess. So we have to be a little careful, and there's no telling exactly what the right amount of water is. It depends on the day, the humidity, the type of flour, the size of the egg, and on and on. So here's where you have to just do it a few times and then learn to trust your intuition. This recipe should take between 3 and 4 tablespoons of water. I'm going to start with 2. I usually split it right down the middle, and I go with 2 tablespoons to start with. And this is actually going to make a double crust pie. So this will be good. But make sure your water is just as cold as you can get it. Pour it right down in there with the egg. And then we're going to stir it together and see how it looks. If it's coming together really well, we won't add any more water. If it needs a little more water, we'll just add it. We will add any additional water very slowly. Just because we don't want gummy stuff. Because I don't like to handle gummy things. And you aren't going to like it either with this crust. So, start with minimal water. You can always add more. You can't take it away. Alright, this is looking pretty good. So, you can be a little more forceful with it to get it to combine. This is not a...
I'm not going to hurt it?
No, you don't have to be real gentle with it at this point. Alright, so it's starting to come together. Oh, this looks great. I don't think we even need any more water, even without touching it. I think we're going to be fine. But I'm going to check it, and then I'll show you what the right texture looks like. All right, let's see. Oh, this is perfect. All right, so when your dough looks like this, so it's all together. It doesn't have to be one big ball right now, but you can see that there are no little shaggy bits. Everybody is like joining the party and mixing in with everybody else. This is perfect. Okay, and when you test it, you pick it up to make sure, you can see it's all together. It's kind of like Play-Doh. Just sort of pinch it together lightly, and it sticks together. It's awesome. All right, you are good to go. Right. So we don't need any more water. Now all you have to do is form this into a ball.
Okay.
We're going to flatten it into a disc and put it in the refrigerator for at least 20 minutes, preferable an hour. And the reason we want to chill it is we want the fat to set back up so that when we roll it out, we have really nicely distributed fat in layers. It's going to make flakes. We're not going to bake this today because this is really just pie crust 101. I just want to show you how simple it is to make this pie crust, and you can do this. If someone is making pie crust and doesn't have demonstration going on, you can do this in less than 10 minutes. And literally, this is his very first pie crust, and it's perfect.
Now, I assume you want to work as quickly as possible.
Yes, you do.
Because of the heat in your hands?
Right, you do. You want to work it quickly.
Okay, how's that?
All right, perfect. Okay, get some foil. Not foil, saran wrap, paper towel.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, wax paper, whatever. Of course, you got to fight with the saran wrap first. And just tear off enough to put this in. You're going to flatten it into a disc about 2 inches thick. And we're going to wrap it up and put it to bed in the fridge. And this is going to become a really good pie. So, if you have any questions, all right, put that down on your workspace. And now try to keep it as round as you can. At this point, keeping your round shape is going to help you later on when you want to roll it out into an actual pie crust. So save yourself a little work. Keep it evenly flat now. You can see he's flattening it out. Keep the roundness, and when your disc that looks good. Wrap it up and in the fridge. So if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. I'm going to go right in after the video. I'm going to put the recipe in for you. And let me know if you're going to try it. I would love to see you making pie crust. And show me your pie crust. Tell me what you're going to do. All right, so he's got it sealed up. Show everybody your disc. It's perfect. This is just what you want. You can see it's about 2 inches. The reason I want it about 2 inches is because I do want to be able to roll it to whatever size I want, but I want it to be consistent so that I don't have to work against it. I don't want to fight it. All right, that's Pie Crust 101, guys.
Have a great day.